Hello and welcome to another comedian's interview for my blog and podcast, A Rich Comic Life. My name is Richard Gill and my blog describes my experiences of watching over 1,400 comedians over the last 50 years. I'm delighted to welcome my guest today, it's Samantha Day. Yay!
Hello, Richard.
Hello.
Hello. Hello, darling.
How are you?
I'm very well. I'm very well
Good.
indeed.
I'm so pleased.
Obviously.
I'm so pleased to have you as a guest. I really am. I think you're a big comic talent. I really do.
Thank you, Richard. That's very kind.
It's meant. We're going to talk for the next 45 minutes to an hour or so, and we're going to talk about your comic career. And I'd like to start off by going right back and asking you, how did you become a comedian in the first place, please?
Okay. Well, the short answer is slowly. I was an accountant for 30 years. I was a single mum,
Right.
3 kids to bring up, and
Wow.
my family really values humor. I'm from somewhere where humor releases pressure, and I
Yeah.
had quite a pressurized childhood, not for bad reasons, just like lots of Gen Xers. A lot was expected of us, and having a laugh was a way of kind of bearing it. And so I've always loved comedy. I'm a bit like you. I'm a bit of a comedy fan
Yeah.
first, comedian second. And yeah, when my last child left university, which was 5 years ago, I thought, fuck it. Now I can go and do what I want to do. So that's
Too
when I
right.
started doing comedy. But yeah, I
That's
tried to be
brilliant.
a comedian when I was an accountant, but the two didn't really go together as well as I hoped they might.
Mm. So what sort of year are we talking about when you had your first ever gig?
2019, January 2019.
Right. And where
And I
where
did
was
have
the
6 months where I was just trying to, because I wasn't just like, doing a little office job. I was a partner at KPMG. I was like head of tax for London. It was a big
wow.
old job.
Wow.
And yeah, I know, I'm really clever. Um, no,
No,
yeah,
no,
I'm
no,
really,
I'm like,
really,
wow,
really
well
clever.
done for getting the job.
Thank you, darling. Yeah, and to be fair, I really quite enjoyed it, but it was never quite right for me. I was ill quite a lot. I spent quite a
Right.
lot of time in bed being ill. But where were we? Oh yeah, and I had about 6 months where I tried to do both, and it became very obvious to me that, well, I think it became obvious to them actually that turning up at Canary Wharf, having been at a gig in Bath till 1 in the morning, wasn't in anyone's best
It's going to
interest.
be tiring.
Yeah, yeah, just didn't work. So yeah,
So,
go on.
so, so where was your first gig?
Well, I guess like pretty much everyone, it's an open mic, isn't it? Your first one, and it was in St Albans in the back of a pub called the Crown. It was just another comedy club. I know it's hilarious, isn't it? It's fun. Um, and it was really sweet, actually. There's a guy called Des Feely who runs it,
Yeah,
and Des is from the 1970s. He's still there, I think.
yeah.
And so some of his jokes are really old school, and
I
there's
love that.
something about that rather tickles me because I'm 55. I can live with that. And it felt like a very safe space, actually. It wasn't too cool and trendy. It was just kind of fun and warm, and it actually went really well. And I remember thinking, these comedians that kind of die. I don't think that's going to happen to me because I think I'm naturally good at this.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then on gig 20, I found out that that wasn't the case. Yeah, and I died so horribly that Mr. Day, my lovely husband, anyone that can see me on the things thinking, well, I thought she was gay. She looks gay, but I'm not. And I do. Everyone thinks I'm gay for some reason. And he was there, and he was far more traumatized by it than I was. In
Right.
fact, he didn't really come and watch me for a bit after that because he said, it's just so bloody stressful, not knowing if it's
How
going
you
to go
gonna?
well or not. Whereas I kind of thought, oh, that's happened. I heard that would happen and it's happened. I'm glad it's sort of out of the way. I
Well, I
wasn't
think
that
I
fazed by
think
it.
I think it's all experience. I think
Yeah,
I think you've got to have a bad gig to become a better comedian.
I should be brilliant then. I've had loads of back. But I think I know now, and I knew immediately why that had happened.
Right.
And you learn so much more from your failures. Doesn't
Yeah.
even if
Yeah.
I'm talking about comedy. I could be talking about relationships or anything.
Yeah.
Back
Yeah.
to reveal all my demons in the first 5 minutes of the podcast. But yeah, I think you learn a lot more from cocking up, don't you,
Yeah.
than by
Yeah.
getting it right. So actually, that was a really valuable experience because there were three things I did wrong, which I haven't done wrong since. Um, I've just done different things wrong, but hopefully, eventually, I'll get to the point where I've done all the things wrong that I could do wrong. You never know.
I think we're there.
I don't really
Because you're
I
such a
don't have
good
terrible
comedian.
gigs anymore, but they come and go a bit.
um, did you ever, or have you ever found it difficult to break through into comedy? Did you ever find it difficult to break through? And by that I mean, did you find it difficult getting gigs, or did you find it difficult breaking through into the comedy world?
I still do. I think
Right,
the reason for that is it's an ageist industry.
right,
Um, I think most industries are a bit ageist,
yeah,
to be honest with you.
yeah,
But I think at least if you've been doing the same thing, if you're Jo Brand, she broke through when she was young and
yeah,
now she's really good at it. She can just continue to do it. But trying to break through when you're older, I think is a different game. Because it's slightly visual as well as
yeah,
audio, isn't it?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Comedy. And we seem to have a preference to look at younger things
Okay, yeah,
and older women as well. Oh, menopausal women, older women, middle-aged women, none of those words excite people.
yeah, yeah,
And it's a great shame, I think, because, if you were to bring an alien down to Earth and say, go and talk to one person and find out what humanity's all about, the best person he could pick would be a middle-aged woman because
yeah,
we've seen it
yeah,
all.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
That's so
but
true.
but it isn't fashionable to be a middle-aged woman, so it is a bit of an uphill battle. Having said that, my diary's always full, so I don't
Yeah,
find it hard to get gigs, but I do find it hard to kind of get an agent, push on to the next level. I can't imagine that BBC would ever want me. I've got some quite unfashionable views, which won't help. So yeah, I don't know really where it's going to go, but that's all I can do is work on the
it's
things that are within my control.
it's fun trying though.
Yeah, and it is such a nice lifestyle.
Oh yeah.
Is it?
I mean, the thing with me with the blog, two things. I started this. It's coming up to. I think I went through 5 years of the blog, and it's something like 3 years for the podcast. And my brother said to me once. He said, "I'm so proud of you because you found your niche at 55." And I'm like, well, yeah,
Actually,
it's taken me that long.
it sounds like a bit of a backhanded compliment, doesn't it? But I actually think it is a good thing to find something you love to
Yeah,
be
oh
at
yeah, yeah, yeah,
55. That's an
yeah,
age in
yeah.
your life where you could
Well,
kind of
well,
not be ignited.
my work is admin, which is a very wide thing, and I'm very good at it because I've been doing it for 30 years. I've had 17 years in the civil service. I've had 11 years in a school, and I've got a very nice council job at Wandsworth Council as an admin man, and I love it. But I live for the comedy. This other side of being able to go to fringes, to festivals, to comedy nights is just the greatest thing. Meet wonderful folk, and the other thing is having praised everybody on the podcast, because that's what it is. It's really about my spread. It sounds wanky, but it's my spread of joy. I so get such a buzz out of going there. And anything, it's all about me that happens to me in the audience. I don't think anybody's done it from an audience point of view. Certainly the blog could be bothered to write things about it. now whenever I walk around the comedy circuit, the comedians come up to me instead of me running up to them asking for a photograph, and that's lovely to be
Yeah.
recognised. You know, it's so nice. And you know, I get a bit overwhelmed. I've got like a testimonials section in the blog itself, and so many comedians have been so lovely, and it's just because I just fuel off it. It's given me a hell of a lot of confidence sitting on the front row. I never used to sit on the front row because I thought the laugh would carry, but now I'm part of the set.
Yeah. I
It's
know,
so,
and if
so
you're there,
good.
everyone's just like, "Oh, brilliant!
Richie's in. We're gonna have
He's
a
going to
great night.
start the laughing. Now all I've got to do is keep it going."
It's so
Yeah.
good. It's so, so good. What do you like to talk about on stage? Do you have any specific themes or anything like that?
Well, I allow my material to emerge. So it's my turn to sound wanky. Let's but no, I
Never.
do. I sort of, you know how every day I walk my dog every day. You know, every day if you go out for a walk, you don't choose your thoughts. They just come, don't they? The latest thing that's worrying you, or
Yeah, yeah,
a big dream you've suddenly got in your mind that you want to do, whatever it is. So the actual content in terms of, or the subject, the topic, I don't choose. I allow it to come to me
right,
because then it's no effort to think about it because it's thinked itself. But and actually turning things into jokes, writing jokes over a serious narrative isn't that hard, believe it or not. But the things which have emerged over recent times, a lot of thinking about my body,
yeah.
oddly. I guess because I'm aging and um, noticing our attitudes towards you change when you change. And so I've thought a lot about that. And actually, you know, I did the Booby Trap, which was my awards nominated Edinburgh show. I done that.
Congratulations.
Oh, thank you. I didn't want to mention it, but it's popped out. So there we are, the Booby Trap. And but yeah, I ended up doing a whole show about boobs. And it
Yeah,
was so much fun, you know. But I talk about the different generations because, of course, you know, my children, I've got 6 children. 3 of my sort of, you know, what actually came out of my fanny, and then 3 that I got as a sort of bonus prize when I married Mr. Day. And
lovely.
they're all millennials and
Yeah,
Gen Zs and what have you. And it's just interesting trying to relate well to them because
of course.
families change over time, don't they? And
Yeah, yeah.
they used to love me to bits when they were children, and now I have to think about it. Um,
I'm
so
sure
yeah,
that's not the case.
I talk about things that make me feel something, you know, and I notice my feelings as well. So, you know, sometimes you feel awful things you don't want to feel. Like, for example, the other day I was in Waitrose, I couldn't park, and then I noticed there's fucking loads of disabled
Mm.
parking spaces free, and I started to think, well, is there too many? You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
I didn't want to have that thought, but now I've had it, I might as well have some fun with it. So, yeah, that's the kind of
My hometown is Carlisle, and but I live in London. I've lived in London for 30 years. And just before COVID, my dear mum passed away, and me and my brother went up, and my brother said, "Oh, you've been fantastic." He said, "Go to your comedy." So I went to this little tiny club in Carlisle that I hardly ever go to, and the Noise Next Door were on,
yeah.
who I love. And I'm sitting at the back with a pint of beer in the dark, feeling a bit sorry for myself, obviously. And they bound on, and he goes, "Hello, Carlisle. We've never played here before. Can somebody tell me something good about Carlisle?" And somebody yelled out Carlisle United Football Club. So we'll have that. And then they said, "Can somebody tell us anything bad about Carlisle?" And some bastard yelled out Richard Gill. And they went, "Is he here?" And I went, "Oh my God, yes, I'm here, I'm here." And I ended up singing on stage with them, and it was the most
Oh,
joyous thing in the most difficult situation, and that's why I go. It just spreads happiness, you know. It's so when you get a decent act like yourself, it's just wonderful to watch. and it cheers me up no end. And it must be an adrenaline for you receiving the laughter, because it's an adrenaline for me being there. Is that the
It's
case?
it is. I mean,
Yeah.
last night I did a village hall in Northamptonshire. It was packed out. I
Yeah.
was the last act, and I'm always working on something. And last night I was working on keeping my feet still, because I've got a tendency to kind of just dither about the stage. And
Yeah.
so I'm trying to either stand still and be like a tree. I'm moving my body, but I'm not moving my feet, or deliberately move from place to place, but not just kind of meander around willy-nilly. So I
Yeah.
was working on that. I was working on the same with my enunciation, say stuff or don't say stuff, but don't diddle in the middle. So I was working on that, and it made such a difference. And I felt like an orchestra conducting the laughter. It was really
Yeah.
quite, I felt almost superhuman. Um, and then I backed into something on the way home, so I'm not. But yeah,
Oh dear.
yeah. It's just outside on my driveway. My neighbour's parked a bit closer than normal, and I thought, oh dear.
Oh
But there
dear.
we are. I'm not superhuman. Really nice, luckily. So he's let me off.
So, how do you remember all your routines? Have you got a way of remembering them?
Well, remembering an actual like subroutine is easy because it's a thought, uh, it's a pathway. You can imagine you're just like singing a song.
Yeah.
Once you've got the first few words, you've got the whole song. But the links are really the hard bit, sort of what comes next, especially if you try to move things around in your set, and especially if you're doing an Edinburgh show, you quite often think, oh, actually, that bit doesn't belong there, it belongs at the front. So you move it, and then the links are broken.
Yeah.
And they're the really hard bits. So what I do is little cartoons in my head. So for example, I do a joke where I'm talking about shoplifting. I'm saying, well, it's a bit like you've crossed a line, it's like, when you've slept with four of the men at work, you might as well do the other 26 now. And the next bit is not on page 3 of my life anymore. I'm halfway through the sun. So the way I remember that link, because they don't go together, is 26 and 3. 3 goes in the middle of 26. So I've got in my mind a little cartoon with page,
Yeah.
might as well do the next 26, page 3 in the middle. And every link I have a little cartoon
That's
that
amazing.
joins them up.
That's incredible. Um, you mentioned before about the comedy competition that you won, and congratulations again. What is your view of comedy competitions? Do you think they're a good thing for the comedian?
Well, I think they are. I've won quite a few of them,
Yeah.
actually. I have. I've won loads of them. Um,
Fantastic.
and and the only reason is because I'm the best one. But yeah, but no, I thought they were important. But now that I run 2 gigs myself and I book acts, I don't really give much weight to competitions at all as a
No.
booker. I'm much more interested in can they make people laugh in the
Yeah.
room, because
Yeah.
most competitions, the set length is 5 to 7 minutes. And most bookings are for a 20-minute set.
Right.
So actually, they're kind of important in the sense I think they give you something to put on your comedy CV, give you a bit of social media profile. They're good experience. They're a good way to meet other comics about your level. I've just entered the Not So New Comedian of the Year, that David Hardcastle runs at the Museum of Comedy.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
I've just got as heat in that. But in the grand scheme of things, I don't think, I think you could easily not win any competitions and be very, very successful. In
Yeah.
fact,
Yeah.
I imagine most really good comedians haven't won loads of competitions. There's a different discipline almost. It's almost like I'm going to pretend I know something about sport now. But is there something called one-day cricket?
I think there is.
I think there might be,
Yeah.
but or let's. It's a bit like being a fast sprinter doesn't make you a great marathon runner.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Good thing.
Yeah. It's a good answer. Yeah. Um,
Thanks, Richard.
I
I'm only doing good answers. I've made it my mission.
Well, I'm so pleased you're here. I feel as though I've known you for 20 years. What is wonderful on this chat and on stage about you is your confidence. You appear very confident, and I wanted to ask you: do you suffer from any nerves at all? And if so, how do you cope with them before you go on stage?
Now, I don't really
Well,
feel
not now, but when
nervous
you
that
before you
much.
do. I hope you're not nervous now.
No, but sorry, no, I mean like last night before the
Yeah,
gig in Village Hall, I wasn't nervous. It's sort of what I do now.
yeah.
However, I do really prepare. So, as a comedy nerd, you might be interested with this. You might already know this, but there is a pacing for comedy, and it's 92 beats per minute. So if you go and get on the Netflix, look up a comedian that you love. If they're really good, most likely they'll be acting at 92 beats per minute.
I didn't know
And
this. No.
yeah, well, Ricky Gervais apparently is 91.
Yeah,
Michael McIntyre's apparently 95, but it's quite a narrow
yeah.
margin, is the point. And so what I do is I have a metronome on my phone. Everyone thinks I'm mental, but I set it and I start to breathe in that rhythm. Then I start to move my body in that rhythm, just swaying. Then I move my whole body because, of course, it's an act. So it doesn't matter if you're confident or not because it's an act.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
so that whether you're confident or not is irrelevant in some senses. And then because you've just got to go on there and do your act and
yeah.
act confident. And I've practiced that in my business leadership life because that's the
We've
same.
all been there.
Yeah, make it do it, summit or something like that. So yeah, I do all that stuff. And sometimes I do get nervous, if I could tell that the audience is very pissed and
Yeah.
or there's a bit of reason for a bit of extra danger, but I try to sort of get in the zone and I used to prepare by thinking, oh, what's in my set? What am I going to say? Blah, blah, blah. I don't do any of that now. In preparation, I get out of my head into my body using those things. Amanda Baker taught me all that, by the way. She's Jimmy Carr's director.
Yeah.
She's been running courses for comedians recently. For
Right.
any comedians listening, they are fabulous. So she does one for writing jokes and one for performance, and they're both absolutely brilliant.
Right.
One of the things she teaches you is to get out of your head and into your body.
Mm.
Know your set, or if you don't know your set, it's too bloody late now.
Yeah.
And go on there and communicate. And it's an act of,
Fascinating. Yeah.
but it is fascinating. And she is extraordinary and has made such a difference to my life. Yeah, I really owe her a lot. And so do lots of other people who may or may not credit her.
What was her name again? Amanda Baker.
Amanda Baker.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I'll certainly research her because I often wonder. I always think when I'm watching a comedian, they've got to be funny, but if they're either going to be unique or endearing, or there's something about them that makes you want to be drawn in by them. And I think communication plays a massive part in that. And if she's busy concentrating on that for her courses, that's only a good thing.
Yeah, and the other thing which is really magnetic for a comedian is persona. So
Yeah,
you've seen loads of comedy, so you'll
yeah,
know there's loads of comedians out there that they're really funny, really make you laugh. You leave the room, can't quite remember what they said or who they are or what they look like. And then there are other comedians where you think, I didn't really like him, but you can't get him out of your head. They've got a
yeah,
really strong persona. They've made a real impression. And actually, to break through, if you want to break through and you are sort of the right demographic for making that happen, and I'm not being sort of jaundiced about it, I might make it happen my own way. It's,
yeah,
life's more democratic now because I might be able to do something online and I'm going to write a book as well. But so I'm not being, well, I am a bit jaundiced and bitter about it, but it is what it is. But
yeah,
if you are the right demographic to break through, one of the things that stands in people's way is this lack of persona, lack of difference.
Yeah,
You know, the number of men that get up there in their jeans and their t-shirt and they're all a bit, well, we've got, you know, Russell Howard and whatever, you know, loads of them.
yeah,
So they're not going to probably find a niche
yeah,
because
yeah, yeah.
none.
That's so true. I mean, my view is that if you're funny, you're funny, whether whatever you are. You know, if there is something about the way you deliver a joke, or the persona, or the way you look, or the way you deliver a gag, then go for it. I had a go once, years and years ago. I've told a load of comedians this, and never say never again. But it was one of the most unbelievable stories. I walked out. I was asked to go on a gong show, which was at the Edinburgh Fringe, and there was like 3 people in the audience. It was a Monday afternoon. It was raining. It was horrible. It couldn't be worse. And I'd never done anything like this before. I wrote a script about crashing cars in Carlisle. I'd just passed my driving test, and the promoter liked it. And he said, "Go and have a go." So I walked out. The first thing I said was, "Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. People think I look like Eddie the Eagle Edwards, the ski jumper, but I can't see the resemblance myself." And when I did the gig, I looked exactly like him. I thought, that's a brilliant opening line. Some old fella at the back just went, "Fuck off and get me off." Walked off to my own footsteps. And the promoter said, "Have another go, another go." Did it again, similar thing. Got a bit further. But then I thought, I don't know whether this is for me. I think my calling is sitting in the audience watching you all. But, you know, who knows? I might start a comedy club. I might compare a club. I don't know. The sky is the limit with the blog and the podcast. You just don't know, because I didn't know what a blog was. I didn't know what a podcast was before this. And it's, as I say, it's helped me enormously. But I think you have to find your niche and what you want out of it. And I think my support to you all hopefully goes a long way to what a wonderful art form it is. And it is an art form. You know, it's always been neglected. It is a massive art form. So I wish you every success. I really do. Let's move on to Edinburgh. I'm very lucky every year to go to the Edinburgh Festival. I've been going since 2005. And I go for a week, and I see about 50 or 60 shows, and I need a holiday by the time I come back because I'm shattered. But I've branched out more. I go to a lot more fringes and festivals. I've just come back from Leicester. I'm going to Hastings in June. We're recording this in March 24. And I'm going to Hull again. I'm going to Brighton. So there's all these different festivals and fringes. What is your view of them? Have you appeared in many of them? Have you been as a punter? What's your view of them?
Well, I went to Edinburgh a couple of times as a punter, and then I've done it a couple of times as an act. It's almost like going to a different planet, you know.
Oh,
Um,
yeah,
yeah. I mean, the first time I did Edinburgh, I mean, I now do Leicester, Brighton, Buxton,
yeah,
Bath. I try and do as many as possible.
yeah,
Guildford, which is really nice as
yeah,
well.
yeah,
Um, so what do I think of them? Well, my first Edinburgh, I camped with my dog, and I didn't realise that actually as a performer in Edinburgh, you spend a lot longer flyering than you do performing. And actually I had a slot which was 9:45 at night. And by the time it got to my show, I was knackered, you know, I'd like been on
yeah.
6
It's
flying
too
break.
much, the flyering. I've helped a lot of comedians do it. Yeah,
But it is quite full on. But I got it. I know what to do now. And the second year, dream. I knew exactly what I was doing. I did 2 hours flying before each show, did my show, and I stay outside the city with my dog. I go to Portobello Beach every morning. I go in, I do my show, I go home. And I think, well, if I want to see comedy, I can go. Like tonight, I'm going to see Jonathan Pye in Swindon,
oh, brilliant.
and I love him. So
Yeah,
I'm really excited about that. But when you're in Edinburgh as a performer, that's not the ideal time to be going and seeing shows because you've got a lot to do already.
yeah,
particularly if you've got your dog with you, because I've got to, look after him as well.
Yeah, yeah,
So I loved the Edinburgh Fringe. I think it's a bit like comedy competitions. It's easy to build it up in your mind as something that's hugely important and big. It's not, most people don't go to Edinburgh, and when it's done, everyone forgets what happened.
yeah,
But it is a brilliant boot camp. So this year I'm doing
yeah.
my third one. I'm going to do the full run. And my ambition is to come home as a better comedian than when I went. And I already know I will, because you're going to do 27 shows. If you can't get better in 27 shows back to back, you're
It's
not
a
trying.
it's a long run, but it's worth it doing the whole thing, I think, if you can.
And I just love I'm like you, I love the comedy industry. I
Yeah,
love being around other
yeah,
comedians. And I've learned how to flyer. So
yeah,
for
yeah,
anybody,
yeah,
most comedians don't know how to flyer. And the reason
yeah,
they don't know is because they're comedians.
yeah.
They're not business people. But you have to think, the number of comedians that stand there going, free comedy, free comedy. They're in a city full of free comedy. What on earth are you trying to do that for? Nobody's going to buy that, are they? So what I do, and what I think everyone should do really, is think, if I was in a city full of biscuits, all different biscuits, and I wanted to sell my biscuit, would I talk about the biscuit? No, I wouldn't. I'd give them a taste of the biscuit, wouldn't
Yeah,
I? So now with my flyer in, I do a little comedy routine. I have to do it thousands and thousands of times over the month, but it works because people go, "Oh my God, she's hilarious." We'll go and watch that, because they think I'm having a chat. They don't realize I've just done that 999 times.
yeah, 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 yeah,
Well, so that's how I do it. It's much more effective. It's much more tiring because you're sort of on. You've got your performance mode switched on the whole time, but you don't have to do it for quite so long either. Now I do 2 hours, and I think if 2 hours isn't enough, it isn't enough. But last year, I mean, to be fair, I had a tiny room, but I packed it out every single night of the Fringe.
brilliant. And
So it
where are
worked.
you on this year then?
I'm in the voodoo rooms this year, not the
Oh,
VD.
right.
Got to go
Uh,
somewhere else for that. But the voodoo rooms,
what
um,
time?
I'm in Carte Blanche, which is a little art gallery in
Yeah,
the voodoo rooms. And yeah, I'm doing a show called The Generations Game, which
wonderful.
yeah, it's all about which is the best generation. Were you smart enough to be born at the right time? So
And
it's
what
fun to
time's
find.
this going to be?
It's going to be 8:45 pretty much every night. I think I've
Every
got
night.
2 nights
I'm going to
off.
do my very best to be there, but I'll
Oh, thanks,
definitely see you.
Richard.
I'm going probably the Wednesday, the 21st, I think it is, to the end of it. So
That's the best time to go.
it's my second year of going the last week, and what's brilliant is that I will turn up full of life, and all the comedians be exhausted after 3 weeks. So I give them a boost.
Yeah. And also the shows have run in by then,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
with the best one in the world, I always turn up with a fully rehearsed,
yeah,
complete ready show. I don't, expect the audience to sit through my rehearsals.
yeah, yeah,
Inevitably, it does get better because you
yeah.
start to think, oh, hang on a minute, I could add this here,
You
or I
could
could
do
swap
this
that
and do it.
around. And
Yeah, yeah,
they
yeah,
just do get better. And of course, the material. So at the beginning, some of your brain is used trying to remember the material, call it down. Whereas by the end, that's all autopilot, that's all done. So your whole brain is available for you to perform.
yeah,
The whole thing springs into life, compared with the first few shows where you're sort of
yeah, yeah.
trying to pull it
Like,
down from the cloud.
yeah, 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 yeah. That's great. Please, can you describe your writing process and where you get your ideas from?
Well, yeah, what's on my mind is on my mind. So that's my ideas. Um, but my writing process again is Amanda Baker. If you can get her to come on your thing, you'd love. She's a very interesting person to talk to,
Yeah,
and she was an act as well, but now she's a
right.
director.
I might well do. Yeah.
Yeah, she's fabulous. She's American, very, but she can't help it. I don't even hold it against her. That's how. And so her process is, and this is what I do, 10 jokes a day.
Yeah.
Critically, they don't have to be good. They just have to exist. So you
Right.
write 10 jokes a day, and then you take those 10 jokes and you refine them. And some of them you might refine by putting them in the bin. But other ones you refine by, moving them, making them more exaggerated, adding some wordplay, adding a bit more misdirection, make them more economical, because word economy is everything in jokes, isn't it? Don't want a load of flappy words flying around for no reason. So yeah, 10 jokes a day and then refine them. And the themes are what they are. So at the moment,
Yeah.
generational stuff is on my mind because I want to relate to my kids as they get to be adults. And I'm finding it hard. I'll be honest with you. I'm finding it difficult. And it's one of those like what's the word? Double when you get two benefits, kill two birds.
Kill
I'm
two
gonna
birds,
write
with
some
one stone.
material, but
Yeah.
I'm also gonna think through, well, what what is it that's meant it's difficult all of a sudden? Because it used to be easy to talk to my kids. They were my kids. I love them. How could it ever be difficult? But it's become a bit like they're adults now and I seem a bit irritating to them. And I used to like be the person they go to know the answer to stuff. And now the
Yeah.
last person they ask is,
Yeah.
that mother. So yeah, I feel a bit redundant, a bit sad about it, and it's been interesting. I've been researching it a bit as well, like the different generations and some of the stereotypes. Of course, joke stereotypes are brilliant for joke writing, aren't
Yeah.
they?
Yeah.
Something to bounce off, but actually, some of the stereotypes simply are not true, and that's quite interesting too.
Yeah. Yeah. You're a very intelligent thinker. Just listening to you. It's wonderful to hear your view of life. I mean, for me, the most creative thing I've done, other than write this blog and do this podcast, was I wrote a play called The Applicant. I had an idea for years about me coming down to London. I'd never had a job, and I had a successful girlfriend in London, and she persuaded me to come down to London, and I went for my first ever interview, and I didn't have a clue. And really, it was his experience of going from not having an interview to getting his ideal job. And I used to write it where I would have me running on, sitting in a waiting room, panicking, and then looking at the audience and then chatting to them. So it was a monologue, and then the interviewer would come on and interview me, and it would gradually work. When I wrote this, we performed it for we practiced it for 10 weeks, and we did 3 shows for Comic Relief. And on the first night I ran out and I completely forgot the monologue. I was like a rabbit in headlights. I'm like, I just want to go home. But as soon as the friend of mine who came on and did and interviewed me, it bounced back. It bounced back. Do you find that with being on stage, do you have a prop to help you with that, or does the audience help, or if you lose your way,
Uh,
how do you bring it back if you lose your way at all? I know you said you plan it all.
I do plan it, but and sometimes you don't want to over plan it in the
Yeah,
sense of like you want comedy. One of the beauties of it is it's a little bit dangerous,
yeah, yeah,
something unexpected
yeah.
should happen on a really good gig. You think, oh, that was I didn't see that coming, and
Exactly. Yeah,
you're
yeah,
alive. But you do need an anchor, don't
yeah,
you, to get back to sort of because you're driving this bus,
yeah,
however much fun it is to skid it around, you are supposed to be driving. So you do need to be able to get back. You see lots of comedians with stuff written on their hands. I sometimes write on my hand. Um, but I try and remember the links. But I have had exactly that experience you describe of just thinking, I've got no idea what's supposed to happen next. And funny enough, if you pause, because I used to teach people communication skills when
yeah,
I was a partner, I used to teach the new partners how to communicate. And it sounds ridiculous, but actually, people who are brilliant accountants aren't always natural presenters or leaders. And most of communication, we think of communication as talking. It's not
Yeah.
talking, is it? Most of communication is the millions of tiny messages we're giving off all the time from everything. Every choice we make is evident to people. And listening as well is communicating. And actually, if you pause, it seems like an age, doesn't it, to you on stage? You're thinking, oh my God, they'll be putting the clocks forward before I finish this bloody routine. But actually, it's microseconds. It's not noticeable to
Yeah,
the
yeah,
audience.
yeah.
So now I sort of take a breath and trust because I've rehearsed it. I have to respect the fact that I've rehearsed it. I know what I'm doing and it will come. Just chill the fuck out. Because what happened was with your colleague when he came on the stage, he reset things for
Yeah,
you.
yeah,
Your
yeah,
anxiety level dropped, and all of a sudden you're cool again.
yeah,
You have to learn to drop your own anxiety level.
yeah, 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 yeah. I never thought of it like that.
I wasn't there, but that would be my best
No.
guess. Normally it's
Um,
anxiety that derails us. Not like we don't know the words or our memory's completely failed. We've developed Alzheimer's in a split second. That's not just happened.
it was, I mean, the Thursday and the Friday night, I never put a foot wrong. But because we'd worked so hard at it for 10 weeks, and that Wednesday night I just felt awful. But it was like, well, it happens to everybody, and it does. I've seen professional plays or professional comedians lose their way, and
Yeah.
it's very interesting bringing them back. And another thing that springs to mind, I was once at a Headliners Comedy Club in Chiswick, and Ricky Grover was on stage, and there was not some very pleasant. There was some very unpleasant people in the front row, and they were trying to ruin his set. And he stopped the show, jumped down, physically threw him out. And when he came back on, he came on to the theme of Rocky because he was an ex-boxer. And from then on, his act just went through the roof. Everybody
Yeah.
loved him for doing it. And so you're looking for, as you say, you're not looking for it, but the unexpected is wonderful.
It is. Yeah, you just need
And
your anchor. That's his
yeah,
anchor.
yeah,
That
yeah, 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 yeah. That's
um,
fascinating. Yeah.
yeah, but we've
Um,
all got one. And I think if you put things on your hand as well, you see Stuart Lee's got
yeah,
bloody stuff all
yeah,
down here. He never looks at it,
yeah.
but it's his little
It's like
comfort.
a little anchor prop, like say an
Yeah.
anchor or a prop. Or something. Um, do you have any ambitions as a comedian? Would you like to be on television? Would you like your own quiz show? You say you're writing a book. Tell me all about that.
Yeah, well, well, let's do one thing at a time, I suppose. The ambition thing, I sort of feel like that's out of my control. But I do want to build my online stuff. I just haven't quite worked out what I want to be. So I used to do some pieces to camera on online stuff,
Right,
and they were all right. They were all right, but they weren't really anywhere near as good as my stand-up.
right.
So I stopped doing them because I kind of thought they're slightly devaluing what people then see when they come to see me. They're not a very good advert for that. And so sometimes now I put bits of stand up, but of course, you're always sort of writing material for your next show. So you don't want to put all that up, else you've given the show away before it started.
Yeah,
It's quite difficult to build online stuff. The best stuff is audience interactions, really, because that's a one-off that isn't going to happen again. So you can put that up without spoiling your material. But I haven't really worked out what my path through will be. But I do think it is probably what business people would call sort of omni-channel, this kind of joined up approach to things. Because I'm not going to get called up to be on the telly. I'm too old. So what I could do and what I am doing now is thinking, well, what am I thinking about? What jokes am I writing? And trying to write the book of the show, if you know what I mean, so that I've got the show and I've got a book. Because actually, a show, even if it's brilliant, not that many people in total will see it.
Yeah.
Even if you do it every night of Edinburgh and you take it around all the other festivals, you're still talking hundreds of people, not thousands of people.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
incredibly inefficient. So, I mean, the booby trap, I'm doing the last one of those in July at Buxton Fringe. And after that, I will release some of that material because I won't be using it again, so I can give it away. But the new stuff will go into the show and the book. And the book probably will be quite a serious book about how difficult I'm finding being older. But it will also have jokes in it because everything's got its funny side, hasn't it?
Yeah, 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 yeah. Of course. Live for the day, I always used to say to my mother. My mum,
Yeah.
whenever my mum used to get low, God bless her, I used to say to her, "Who's your favourite entertainer?" And she'd go, "Bruce Forsyth." And they were exactly the same age. I said, "Well, look at him on the telly," and she'd cheer up. God bless her.
I do think like having a um mission.
Yeah,
I watched a documentary on the Netflix about Arnold Schwarzenegger the other night.
right.
Um, and the same with David Beckham's one, actually. I watched that as well. Um, and they've both got a mission, right through their lives. So David Beckham's not finished because he's not playing football. He's now
Mm,
bought a
mm,
football club and he got a different mission. Arnold Schwarzenegger, he did his bodybuilding, then his
mm,
acting, if you can call it that. Then he done his politics and stuff, and now he's sort of moved into a different, more statesman-like
mm,
part of politics. But they're on a mission,
mm.
and I think it keeps you interested in life and
Well, very much so. Yeah, yeah, very much so.
that is really my ambition is to just keep getting better.
You
I
go,
love
yeah,
the nights that I run. I
yeah,
know if I wanted to, I could stop being a comedian and be a promoter tomorrow
yeah,
because
yeah,
I've already got that business background. But that's exactly what I don't want to do
yeah,
because I can already do that. I could do that when I'm 80.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
now, because being a comedian is quite a physical job in the sense of, you're going from place to place,
yeah.
staying in different places. I stay in my van quite a lot. Um, you travel quite a lot. And I wonder, when I'm 70 or 80, whether I can be asked with that, but I can be asked with it now, to do it now, and then I'll maybe do a bit more writing and
Yeah.
stuff when I'm older, if I'm lucky enough to live that long.
I've,
Um,
I've I've worked out that when I'm 80, the Edinburgh Fringe is 100, and if I can get up there, if I'm mobile, or if someone can wheelchair me around and push me up all those hills, I'm going.
yeah, that is a brilliant.
That'd be
That
amazing.
is. How old are you now?
I'm 57 in August.
You're 57. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I'm
Well, it's a
56
long,
now.
you've got a lot to do before you're 80 then, haven't
Of
you?
course, yes, of course I have. Yeah. Who are your favourite comedians, past and present? Did you have comedy growing up?
Yeah. Yeah, I did. And I think I don't have a like I remember when The Office came on, and I know Ricky Gervais is deeply unfashionable, especially in the comedy community. But when The Office came on, I was with my first husband, um, and I said to him, God, imagine if someone did a sitcom about The Office properly, it'd be bloody brilliant. And then we watched the first episode and we were like, he's fucking done it. And I've loved Ricky Gervais ever since. And like his last show, I think I went to see it 3 times.
Yeah,
And
he is very good. There's
he
no
is good.
denying he is. I've seen him live, and he's terrific. Yeah,
He is. And equally, I like Stuart Lee, who's at the other
yeah,
end of the political
yeah,
spectrum. And they sort of, rip each other to shreds on stage, don't they? But
yeah, yeah.
yeah, I love both of them. But, I actually really like live comedy. And like in the last few weeks, 3 people I've seen that I've just loved. I've just thought, bloody hell, am I getting paid to do this? It's mental. One is Ian Stone.
Oh, he's brilliant. He's so
Oh,
good.
oh, well, I was supposed to have Ignacio Lopez come to do the spot, and he couldn't do it. He was ill. So Ian stepped in as a stand-in, and
Yeah,
I didn't realise how good he was. I was just like,
he's
oh,
so good.
I hope he's all right.
He's been on here, and
Has
he's
he?
fantastic. He was so good. I've been a fan of his for years. and he's got a book out about the
Yeah.
Jam, the band The Jam, and they're one of my favourite bands.
And
And
he's going on tour now. He's just about
oh,
to go on
yeah,
tour.
first ever tour this year.
Hmm.
Amazing, because he's been going for years. He's such a good comedian. Who are the
Well, I
others?
didn't know about him, so I was saying to my friends, "Well, I hope he's going to be all right for his bloody Ian Stone." They're like, "What are you talking about? He's absolutely
He's,
astonishing."
he
And then
was.
he even did it, and the audience were just in the palm of his hand.
Yeah.
They loved him. But I've seen and my other, because I do two nights that I run, and the other one this week, I'm a bit like you know when you go out for a really nice meal and you think, I think that's the best meal I've ever had, and then
I do that all the time.
these are my favourites because I see them this week. But Darius Davis, do you know
Oh, he's
him?
brilliant. He's good. Yeah.
Oh, I like him because he's
Yeah.
brave. He
Yeah.
says actually says something, he has some bloody opinions. I cannot stand comedians that are, I mean, they're nice people, but the act, I can't stand acts which are safe.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
can't bear it. And then the other woman that was on my night that I loved was Mary Burke,
Oh,
Mary
yeah.
Burke,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Irish
Yeah.
woman. She
She's
was funny.
fantastic. Yeah.
Her
Yeah.
writing's really good. You have to listen quite hard for the delivery because she's quite softly spoken. Um, she was really good, really good.
Tell me more about this comedy night. Where
Well,
is it?
I've, my daughter labelled it the Cackling Bat Comedy Club after me, and
Come on
yeah, she's
in.
like the cackling bat. So I've got one in because I live in two places. Because I got married when I was 46, and my husband and I each had lives,
Right.
three kids each, stuff going on. So we didn't, we're in a committed relationship, but we don't live together all the time. We've still got our
Right.
own little
Yeah. Yeah.
bases. So I live with him probably half the time and on my own half the time. And um, I run a night in each of those bases. So Farringdon in Oxfordshire is where my heart is, I guess. That's where my kids grew up. That's where the night is. And that's 120 people. We've got Arthur Smith coming on Thursday.
Oh, what a hero. He's
I
done this
know.
as well.
That's
I
good.
introduced him as Daphne Fairfax, the title of
Did
his
you?
book, and he burst out laughing. He nearly spluttered on his cigarette. He's a
Lovely.
lovely
Oh,
bloke.
yeah, he's a lovely
Genuinely funny
person.
man.
So, and I like the way he like mixes in poetry with his
Yeah.
stuff. Like
Yeah,
it's,
yeah,
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 it's got
yeah,
something different.
yeah.
And yeah, the other one I run is in a very posh part of because my husband, he's not posh, he's rich. Um, yeah, I said to my friend before I met him, I go, I want a man who likes me for me, preferably one with a yacht. So, yeah, that's what I got. And he lives in this place called Little Chalfont in Buckinghamshire.
I've heard
And
of
so,
that, yeah.
yeah, it's very sweet. And there's this pub there that's got a purpose-built comedy basement. And so it only holds 50 people, but it's a lovely little night. And I've only done two of those yet. We've got the third one coming up in April. But they've been beautiful, absolutely magical. So and I compare them as well, which I quite enjoy doing because it's an opportunity to run out new material and
What
you
a
know,
lovely life. That
yeah, it
sounds
is a lovely
lovely.
life. It
And
is.
it and if ever I'm ever going to think about running a comedy night, you're the person I'm coming to for advice.
I'm the person other comedians come to.
Yeah, yeah. Of
Um,
course, yeah. But
but
oh
yeah,
wow,
I love
it
it.
sounds brilliant. That it sounds so good. I will definitely make a point of trying to get there and
Thank
see
you.
you. Um,
Yeah, well, if you go to cacklingbatcomedy.com
yeah,
or indeed samanthadaytime.com,
yeah.
you can find the next two. And I
So
was
who are your favorite comedians currently then?
um
There's so
God,
many. I mean, it's
there are so many. It's really hard. The reason I'm kind of hesitating is it's kind of like which is your favorite country? I mean, so many countries, brilliant things going on for different reasons.
yeah. I might change that question.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I got a favorite. I've just
No,
got quite a number that I really
yeah,
like watching. And I'm really excited about going to see Jonathan Pye tonight. Because
that'll be
again, he's
amazing.
something
That
different,
will
isn't he?
be
He's got his
amazing.
rants.
He is a talent. Yeah. My first ever gig, age 7, on holiday in Scarborough. was Les Dawson.
Yeah.
It was just incredible. And then a year later, we saw Tommy Cooper, and the curtains opened, and there was a little bed, and he's lying on it. And one woman in the packed out crowd was crying with laughter, and it trickled round. Everybody was laughing, and he doesn't do a thing. He's just lying asleep on this bed. And with perfect timing, he pops his head up and he just goes, what? Somebody come on.
Oh, and
Genius.
when you watched Les Dawson, did he do stand up?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, it was everything. He did the piano, he did the characters, he did the stand up. He did the infamous joke. I have this long running argument with my brother because the whole family were there. So mum, dad, my brother, me, and my grandma. And I always think it was my grandma, but Nick said no, it was another woman on the row. But I'm certain it was me. I like to think it's my grandma. She got in late for the show, and she had to crawl down in front of the stage to get to a seat. And he took the piss out of her for the rest of the show. So the encore, he walks on and he goes, "Ladies and gentlemen, we're very privileged tonight to have the chairwoman of the Scarborough Women's Institute in the audience tonight," and pointed at my grandma, went bright red and put her head to her hands. And he said, "She's been let out of the home today and she's 111 years old. It's extraordinary. I want you all to sing Happy Birthday with me." So the next thing he's on the piano singing Happy Birthday, playing the piano badly. The whole audience are joining in. And then he stops halfway through and he goes, "What? Oh, sorry, ladies and gentlemen, she's not 111, she's ill." And the curtain comes down. And that was it. He
Oh,
was just the one. He's in my top five,
yeah,
definitely.
yeah, yeah,
He's
yeah. I
so
never
good.
saw him do. I mean, I saw him on telly,
Yeah,
obviously, but
yeah, yeah,
I never really thought about as a child that these people did live stuff.
yeah,
I
yeah.
don't think my parents would have done that. My parents were kind of a bit more intellectuals, they gave us a lot of books to read and stuff like that. Would have certainly we wouldn't have gone on holiday in Scarborough because that would have funny enough,
Well, with
when I met my
Carlisle, it's
first
fairly near,
husband.
you see, Yorkshire way. So,
Yeah, I
so
did
that's
go
where
to
we went.
Scarborough because I married a Latvian, which was a
Right.
mistake. I've got to be honest with you, mainly for him. But he had a caravan in Scarborough.
Scarborough.
You could
It's a
have a
lovely
caravan.
place. I mean, I've got very fond memories of going, but certainly it was the comedy that did it. I then saw early on Les Dawson, Ken Dodd, early on, and I saw him about 6 times. He was extraordinary because he never wanted to leave the stage.
Yeah,
I once got into an argument with him about. I saw him at Crew, and he was going all right, and I was with a friend of mine who was a bit bored. And then the second half started about 10:30, and he bounded on, and he goes, "Right," he said, I've got a whole section about newspapers. What's the newspaper in Crewe?" And I was living there temporarily, and I yelled out, half pissed, "Oh, it's the Chronicle, Ken." And two old women behind me went, "No, no, no, it's not the Chronicle, it's the Mail." And I went, "No, no, it's the Chronicle." And this went on for about 5 minutes, and it floored him, and he never gets floored. And he looked at me and he goes, "What's your name?" And I said, "Richard." He said, "Where are you from?" I said, "Carlisle." He said, "What are you doing here?" He said, "I'll see you on Sunday in Carlisle." "You come in again?" And I'm like, "Oh." But from then on, he needed like a foil. So he gave me a thumbs up at the end, but I never got to meet him. I was never meeting him at that time, but he was an extraordinary talent. Very, very
yeah.
funny man. Just gag after gag after gag after gag.
Oh, it's
And
interesting, isn't
yeah,
it? 'Cause one of the things we've lost with so I suppose when alternative comedy came in, because I did a bit of work with Jim Davidson a few years ago,
right.
and we fell out now, but we were friends then, and I haven't fell out, by the way. He's fell out. He just decided he didn't like me,
Yeah.
but
Well,
it doesn't
more
matter.
fool him.
Yes, but yeah, when I did some work with him, two things really struck me because I went into he's got this like little studio in I don't know, somewhere down South Wimborne or somewhere
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
near Bournemouth. And he gets his little crew in there, Bobby Davro, people like that. And it was like being back at school because they don't care if what they're saying is right or wrong, or they're
Yeah.
just but almost like children. And it was quite charming. Not everything they said was charming, but the experience of being in that environment was quite charming. But the other thing which I really noticed with him is when we started alternative comedy, we got rid of sexism and racism, and it was brilliant that those things were in the bin. However, we also got rid of timing.
Yeah.
And the alternative comedians at the time didn't quite have the musicality, the rhythm of the older comedians. And I watched him sort of write content for his sort of shows that he does on his little platform, and then watched him deliver it. And it all takes place very quickly.
Yeah.
He's brilliant at just coming up with some stuff to say. And I'm not talking about his right-wing political
Yeah.
rants, I'm talking about comedy. And he's also really good at the rhythm of delivery. And I learned so much of him. Whatever else, I'll always be grateful to him for
For that,
showing me
yeah.
a few.
We were at Edinburgh a few years ago, and we went to see. They each did a half hour. We saw Jimmy Cricket and Mick Miller, and at the back of the audience was Tim Vine, Arthur Smith, and there's one or two more, and they were all frantically writing the process of how they go about, because they were just, the delivery was outstanding, and certainly Mick Miller, just an absolute master of the game. I'm trying to get him on here, Mick Miller. I'd love to talk to him. I've never met him, but I've always been a big fan.
Yeah.
I did. This was probably the coup of the podcast, with all due respect, but I chatted to Barry Cryer just before he died,
Oh,
and that was incredible.
yeah.
I got that through Kevin Day, and he was a joy to interview. What was it like working for Morecambe and Wise? What was it like writing for Les Dawson? And the stories, I've seen him so many times over the years. Never got a picture with him, sadly, but what a wonderful man. He was just an extraordinary story. I've just read the book by his son that's just come out about his life, and just all he wanted to do was make people laugh, and that's just magical, isn't it?
It is. And I think, I know I'm just banging on a bit now, it's the end of my time, but I do really believe
Please,
that
I
if
could
we
talk to
want,
you all day.
yeah, edit it all out, just streamline
No,
it
not
back.
at all. That's
But
all.
I do really believe that, like, how like every person, or nearly every person, has got like something that you haven't got, something they're good at that you're not so good at, a kindness that you don't always show,
Yeah,
whatever, a tolerance that you don't always have. And I do sort of feel like some of these older comedians, we've dismissed them, and it's a mistake
yeah,
because they have so much that a lot of comedians now would be better with.
yeah.
Better comic timing, better instincts about entertainment, because it isn't, it is an art form, but it's also a form of entertainment. And I think that generation were very focused on entertainment,
Yeah.
almost to the point, so the downside of that is they would steal each other's jokes if they could get a laugh out of it. Fuck it, doesn't
Yeah,
matter.
yeah, yeah,
We
yeah.
we
Yeah,
wouldn't do that because we're quite sort of respectful of,
yeah,
well, they wrote it, it belongs to them. But equally, they had a sense of not owing the audience something, but really having to deliver
yes, yeah, yeah,
in a
yeah.
way
Yeah, I know
that
what you mean.
it's not
Yeah,
so self-indulgent. And you do see sometimes now, in all art forms probably, examples of when you think, I wonder if the artist is having more fun than the audience
yeah,
here. I don't know, but it looks that way to me. And I'm a little bit uncomfortable with that, to be honest, because I kind of think it's like, what's the point if it's not something that you've put together for others to enjoy?
Yeah, yeah.
We,
I have a section on my blog called "The Ones That Got Away." Just quickly, and Top of the Trees, Morecambe and Wise. I would have loved to have seen them live. I've got everything, every book about them, seen every play and every show. I just think they were the pinnacle, and I can remember our all our family, me aged about 5, just looking around the room, watching everybody, old or young, crying with laughter at them. And I'm hoping, touch wood, very soon, Gary Morecambe's going to come on here and talk about his dad's legacy, which
that'd
would
be
just
amazing.
be an honour, you know.
Have you seen the play? Is it called Spike? That's about Spike Milligan and the
Yeah, it's brilliant. It's really well.
yeah.
He was another one. He was an extraordinary talent, and he you know, we could go on and on about this, but the fact that they're always on, you know, they're always. Morecambe's a classic one where the son and daughter used to take boyfriends and girlfriends back, and he would always be on telling a joke because that's his persona, and it's like, well, they have to keep bettering themselves, otherwise they get depressed and all the rest of it. But I love all that. And I think Nathan Cassidy's got a comedy analysis podcast, you know, about all this. And it's absolutely
Fascinating.
fascinating.
Yeah.
Just before we go,
Yeah.
I would like, would you like to say anything else? Where people can find you on social media? Any writing, any podcasts, anything like that?
Yeah, well, I'm Samantha Daytime on
Hmm.
Instagram. I'm on Facebook, Samantha Day, and I have a website called samanthadaytime.com, and all of my gigs are on there. I sort of do it every 2 months, something like that, but it's always up to date.
Yeah.
And if they want to see my Booby Trap show, go to the Booby Trap tab on there and you'll see the festivals that's coming up at. And then in Edinburgh, if you're going to Edinburgh, come to the Voodoo Rooms, and come and see the Generations game and find out which generation is the best. No.
Well, I'm there. I'm telling you. Um, Listen, it's been absolutely wonderful talking to you. Genuinely, I could talk to you all day.
Thanks, Richard. Vice
You've been a
versa.
fantastic guest, and I'm coming to see you very, very soon. You're such a talent on stage, and it's been wonderful talking to you. Thank you so much for your time.
All right. Thanks, Richard. Have
Thank
a good day.
you.
Bye.